Hi everybody, I'm Rob from Telephoto.com, and in today's video I'd kind of like to share with you, after the bells have stopped for the clock, all about kind of essential accessories for your DSLR, your SLR, your mirrorless camera, your compact camera, your bridge camera, kind of a progression you may want to follow to kind of, I hesitate to use the words take your photography to the next level, but these accessories will enable you to explore certain areas of photography that you might find very, very exciting indeed, and allow you to take the kind of photographs that you couldn't previously take with your other kit. And I'm kind of assuming you've got the basics. You've got lens cloths. You've already got one card for your camera. You've already got one battery, that kind of thing. You've got a kit lens. So let's get cracking. So the first thing I think you've got to buy straight away is, I would say, always buy pretty damn quick a spare battery and a spare memory card, especially a spare battery. I know with memory cards they're pretty huge, aren't they? This is a 32GB one. I never fill these up, but if you're going on a long holiday, you might want to spare batteries though. However, you do go through them, especially if you're using your camera for video as well, so get those. Lightroom is really important. With photography, there's kind of this myth about getting everything right in camera, and although that is important, it is never, or hardly ever, the final point. You will always want to tweak your digital images, and your film ones too, after you've scanned them or anything. You want to add a little bit more contrast, maybe recover something in the shadows. You'll want to crop, you'll want to straighten. So you need some software to do that. A free option would be something like Google's Picasa, but if you want to get the most out of it, Adobe's Lightroom. You can kind of get it on a subscription for less than $10 or £10 a month, where you get Lightroom and Photoshop. Not that bothered about Photoshop, to be honest. Lightroom's so powerful, that's all you really need. But you definitely need to get something like that. And kind of going hand in hand with that, I know I often say, in order to take great photos, to improve your photography, you just need to look at great photos in photo books, magazines, and then go out and do lots of practicing. But also, you can't beat a bit of training. And I think, as a really good start, something like Scott Kelby's digital photography book is very, very good. Now, he does have a whole slew of these tomes, but the first one's very, very good because he's they're funny, but it's very simple. He'll say things like, to take a photo, like that, you need to do this. So it's very much like photo recipes. Ignore his stuff about buying lots of gear. You don't need to. You can take amazing photos with the gear you have, but definitely get something like that. You don't have to buy it. Go down to your local library. I'm sure they'll have a copy somewhere that you can either borrow straight away or order in from another part of the library system. Telephoto lens. If you've only got your kit 18 to 55 or equivalent, you need one of these, something like 55 to 250, 70 to 300. Don't spend loads of money. You want something image stabilized, preferably, because it'll help you to take less blurry photos. But these are incredibly. These are the photos you take with your telephoto lens are the ones that people go, "Wow, you've got a great camera," because it's all about focal length. If you can use a longer focal length when you're taking pictures of things, especially people, those photos become much more flattering. The background gets blurrier, and people just love it. So you need one of those, not only to get closer to your subject, but to take more professional looking photographs. And it literally is simple as that. If you're taking a picture of a person, all you need to do is put your telephoto lens, extend it a bit so it's above, I don't know, sort of 100mm will do. Take some photos against a nice background, and they'll go, "Gosh, what a good camera you've got." Whereas if you take the same photos with your kit lens, it won't look that much different to even your mobile phone. It's also really important to have a nice bag to carry all this stuff around. Actually, no, nice is the wrong word. You've got to have a bag to carry it on. So when you start to look for a bag, you really want one that can take your camera with its kit lens, your telephoto lens, but you want space for a flash as well, because a flash is something else that, again, will transform the look of your photos. This is a second-hand one I picked up at Billingham 225. Very expensive bags, these, so I wouldn't probably recommend getting one of these unless you really love them, or you can pick one up cheap. But that's kind of the kind of size you should be looking at. Another sort of favourite bag of mine, woohoo, that I really like are this is a Think Tank photo bag. Again, doesn't look too much like a camera bag. Low Pro makes some fantastic bags, great value for money. You know, so check them out. But again, get one that can fit your camera body with a kit lens, your telephoto lens, obviously the accessories, spare cards, memory cards, spare batteries, that stuff. But you also want to fit a flash in there as well, because trust me, you will be using a flash. And while we're on the subject of flashes, a flash, automatic flash. This is another accessory you want to get. This is a one I'm testing actually, an Apple-like one, but you've probably heard of Yongnuo ones. And get the TTL variants, the ones that will work automatically with your camera to give you an automatic exposure. You can go manual a la Strobis, and that's well and good. But when you're starting off with flash photography, the fact that the ability to automatically take properly exposed photos by bouncing light off a ceiling or off a wall makes your photos look so much better. So you don't have to go for the branded Canon or Nikon or Sony ones. Brands like Yongnuo are more than good enough, and this Apple-like flash seems pretty good as well. So look out for a review about that soon. Tripod, I'll put a picture up. You don't need one. You really need a tripod if you're doing video work like this, or if you're taking landscape shots in the evening where you're going to be using long exposures, and for doing macro work. So I don't lug a tripod around with me all the time, but I do have one for those occasions when I do need one. Get one to your budget. I use cheap aluminium tripods. They're okay with my cheaper, lightweight, entry-level 600D3.3i camera. Obviously, you've got more cash, you get more expensive carbon fibre ones. Try and go to a shop where you can try them, though. Play around with the whether you want like a twist grip for the legs, or where you want thumb locks, because they operate very, very differently as well. To go with your tripod when you start taking photos, say longer exposures, one of these little beauties, a remote trigger. This is an infrared one for a Canon. You can press this and you can fire for your camera without touching. Great for minimising camera shake, or if you want to take pictures where you're in the photo as well. Not completely essential, because you can get the same effect using the shutter delay timer, but it's nice to have one in your camera bag for those sorts of situations. When you want to get into a fascinating part of photography, which is macro photography, cheaply, one of the ways you can do that is you can buy these babies. These are extension tubes. These are manual ones, and basically what you do is you take your lens, you screw these on, and they magnify the view. You'll lose autofocus, you'll lose auto exposure with these manual ones, but it gets you very, very close to your subject. Great for insects, great for plants. You need to use quite high shutter speeds, and you're losing light when you use these. So often you need to use a tripod, you need to use a flash, you need to hold very, very steady. If you get the automatic ones, they will transmit the data from the lens to the body, so you can still have automatic exposure. And sometimes you lose autofocus as well because there's not enough light. But to delve into the amazing world of macro photography, these babies are very, very good. Here's another way of doing it as well. These are old M42 extension tubes with an M42 lens, which is an old lens mount for old film cameras, with a Canon EOS EF to M42 adapter. So that's another cheap way into it. And that way, with these manual lenses, you see you can still adjust the aperture, and you can do the manual focus nice and easy as well. So that's another way of doing it. But macro photography is very, very special indeed. All you need to do is get a vase of nice new cut flowers, zoom right in, and it's a completely different world. It is amazing. Light stands and flash brackets and shoot through umbrellas. So one of the things you can do is, once you've got your automatic flash, you can have it on top of your camera and you can bounce the light off. But if you really want to get flash, get one of these babies. This is a stand for a light stand for a flash or a reflector, and basically these attach onto the top and enable you to put your flash somewhere else. Now, all of these automatic flashes will have at least a slave mode on them, so when the flash on your camera pops, this will fire as well. So you can immediately have a 2 light setup. And often with cameras like the 600D T3i and the Canon and Nikon equivalents and the newer models, they can actually talk in other modes as well. The camera will talk to the flash wirelessly using the flash to give you automatic off-camera flash exposure. And then the other thing you kind of get to go with it is one of these babies. I haven't really got enough room to show you, but this is a shoot-through umbrella. See if I can open this without knocking everything over. And your flash, but sort of that would kind of go on the bracket, kind of like that, and it diffuses the light, gives you much softer light. With a flash and one of these, you can simulate the light that's coming from a nice, beautiful window, nice natural light that's coming in. Opens up a whole world, and again, it's another one of those accessories that when you start to use and you take photographs of people using that, they will go, wow, you have an amazing camera. It's one of those things. And when you start getting into this, what you can then do, you can then have, a couple of flashes. You could have an off-camera one on the stand. You could have a fill flash, or obviously use your reflector, and you could have a rim light or a hair light as well, a flash that's behind, that's kind of silhouetting, if you like, the back of your person with light so that they stand out from their background. And that can be very, very powerful. You're getting into kind of setups for very simple home studios. Make sure you've got a nice background to use. I recommend getting an old projector white screen. And you may want to as well, especially if your camera can't talk to... your camera will definitely be able to talk to these flashes, any of these flashes, in basic slave mode where they fire, and then you adjust the power of the flashes independently. But one of the things you might want to do is, if you don't want to use your built-in pop-up flash at all, you've then got to get things like these. These are remote triggers that fit on the bottom of the camera, on the top of the camera, sorry, then on the bottom of the flashes. And then when the camera fires, it will trigger these without you having to use the pop-up flash. This is my little box of tricks where I've got, over the years, been very lucky in the fact that because I go to car boot sales quite a lot, I've managed to pick up quite a few very cheap, especially Yongnuo flashes. So I've got about 6 flashes now. To be honest, I don't use them as much as I could, mainly because it's not the kind of photography I do that often, because you need a lot of space to do kind of lots of flash setups. I'm not that experienced in it. I don't really have the time or the subjects. Everybody, Oliver and Suzanne kind of shy away when I get all the lights out and I'm like, right, let's do some portraits. But anyway, maybe something you want to explore. So get your light stands, get your shoot-through umbrellas, get your slave flashes, and get your triggers. And then finally, with all that kit, you can do amazing things. You can take photos that any professional photographer can take. You just need a little bit of imagination and a little bit of technical know-how to do it. And then I think you then need to start to think about focal lengths, actually, with lenses, other areas that you haven't covered by your kit lens and your telephoto sort of kit zoom. So I would think, maybe think about something like a super wide lens, like a 10-18. Great for architecture, great for landscape. However, if maybe you're more into portrait photography, people photography, maybe you're even a little bit of street photography, you might want to go for a long prime lens, something like an 85mm f1.8 or 135mm. Do they do a 1.8 or 2.8 in Canon? These are long primes that are very fast. They have very wide apertures, which means that you can use them in lower light. You can blur the background even more, and they have a look, that you can't really do with these. They get close with your kit lens, but, a long prime, especially the 85, is something that lots of wedding photographers use. It enables you to have very blurred backgrounds in difficult situations where you might not have very pretty backgrounds. And that focal length is very flattering as well. It means you've got to get further away, which again means there's less distortion. Or maybe, if you've been exploring your macro photography with the tubes and you really want to go that way, get something like a 60 or 100mm dedicated macro lens, so you don't have to muck around with extension tubes. Or maybe you're going the other way, you like wildlife but you like bigger wildlife, and get something like a long telephoto lens for shooting wildlife. And something like the Canon, on the Canon side, the 400mm f5.6 is relatively cheap and good value for money compared to the very, very expensive long zooms. So there we go. I hope that's been useful in terms of thinking about the progression of gear, the progression of essential accessories that will help you explore lots of different aspects of your photography in a way that will keep feeding in to your creativity and allowing you to take more and more great photos. My name is Rob from robnotphoto.com, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.